Well, the best laid plans of mice and men are air to go awry. Yes, hello everybody, welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane from the lockdown here beyond the suburban curtain in Grand Prix City, Melbourne, for another edition of In Pit Lane. Our guest tonight is Ben Bargwanna, and we spent a lot of the interview, which I recorded a little bit earlier today, talking about the exciting news that Ben was going to race at Bathurst in the inaugural TCR 500 later this year. Well, of course, as is bound to happen in these situations, it wasn't long afterwards that they actually cancelled that race. So, but nonetheless, we're going to run the interview anyway because Ben has a lot of other great things to say, including his time in Excels and his fondness for that particular category, and also his time in Formula Ford and his plans for both the Victorian State Championship and on the national front as well. Also his future plans and what he hopes to do beyond this year, once everything gets back to some semblance of normality again. But as I said, yes, the TCR race, the 500k race at Bathurst at the end of the year, has been cancelled. However, there will be cars running around Bathurst around that time, and there will be TCR cars, but it's not going to be an enduro. In fact, why am I telling you this when instead you can watch the In Pit Lane Motorsport News? Formula One teams have voted to accept a wide range of cost-cutting measures in response to the current financial situation. According to the British publication Autosport, teams voted Friday to accept a whole raft of new rules, although they fell well short of what many teams had requested. While smaller teams, led by McLaren, were keen to set a cost cap of $100 million per season, top teams Ferrari and Red Bull insisted on more modest cuts. The agreement will see a new cost cap of $145 million reduced to $140 million in 2022 and $135 million in 2013. In addition, teams will be subject to a radical new aerodynamics handicap system, allowing the worst performing teams more wind tunnel time compared with the top teams and allowing the use of more open source parts in order to save money. The rule changes have yet to be approved by the FIA, however it's thought that there will be no opposition, with the vote possibly taking place soon. But the cap may not have come soon enough for one team. Friday, May 29th, European time will see a major financial statement by Renault that could spell the end of their Formula One comeback. Renault has said it aims to cut costs by at least €2 billion over the next 3 years. The French automaker is looking at some major factory closures, while the French government has called on the company to concentrate on developing more environmentally sensitive cars and technology. Several factories are likely to be closed, while the factory in the northern French town of Dieppe that produces Renault's sporting Alpine brand could also be closed, bringing a possible end to the famous brand. Renault Formula One team boss Cyril Abbott-Bull said that he's confident that the manufacturer will stay. However, he has admitted that he's had no guarantees from the top levels of the Renault-Nissan alliance that Formula One is still considered a part of its core business. Well, it's usually the biggest day in world motorsport, the Monaco Grand Prix, the Indianapolis 500 and the NASCAR 600. This year, only one of those events took place, and it was at Charlotte, North Carolina. With the running of one of the toughest races of the season, the Black Fizzo 600. Kurt Busch led the field away, but it wasn't long before light rain brought out a caution. Alex Bowman then took the lead on the restart, hanging on to win both Stage 1 and Stage 2. Bowman won the restart for the third stage before Martin Truex Jr. took over the front running on lap 224. A spin by Matt Kenseth brought out another caution, with Joey Logano taking the third stage win. The race to the flag was a fight between Jimmy Johnson, Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski. Elliott looked set for the win, but a visit to pit lane after a late race caution saw Keselowski hold off Jimmy Johnson for the victory. And after our interview with Ben Bargwanna concerning this year's Bathurst TCR 500, the race was cancelled. There will be a TCR race at Bathurst in November, but the two-driver 500km enduro has been scaled back to a sprint round due to the disruption caused by the apocalypse. The Bathurst event has been expanded to 4 days to accommodate the rescheduled Bathurst 6-hour production race. The change in the race format was announced alongside a revised calendar, with the series ending with a double-header finale at Tasmania's Symmons Plains on the Australia Day long weekend, before a rare visit to Hobart's Baskerville circuit the following weekend. Dare I say it? If you're going to have a double header. And amid all the gloom and doom comes the good news that Toyota Australia have renewed their support for the Toyota 86 one-make series. The series will now run under the new, easy-to-remember title of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Australia 86 series. Just rolls off the tongue like come off a gold tooth. The new name strengthens Toyota's commitment in supporting motorsport at all levels, from the grassroots through to its World Championship winning World Rally Championship and Le Mans winning World Endurance Championship teams. And that's the In-Pit Lane news for the week ending Friday, May 29th, 2020. We'll have more news next week. Now remember, if you'd like to contact us here at In-Pit Lane, you can always do that. You can email us at theshow@inpitlane.com. Remember, we do have a website, www.inpitlane.com. Also, of course, the In-Pit Lane YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, and you'll be notified. Click the little bell icon and you'll be notified of all the new content that we have coming up in the weeks and months to come, once we eventually get back out onto the track again. Also, we're on Twitter. Please follow us there. We're also on Facebook and even on Instagram, if somebody can tell me how the hell you use Instagram and what it's good for. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. But anyway, we're part of it. We're on it. We're not on TikTok yet. I still don't know what TikTok is. Look, we're going to take a break now on In-Pit Lane, though, but when we come back, we're going to be joined by one of the young up-and-coming drivers in the world of Australian motorsport, a second-generation driver, well, in fact, third-generation driver, really, and we'll find out more about that when we're joined by Ben Bargwanna. You're watching In-Pit Lane on Channel 31 Melbourne, Channel 44 Adelaide, and, of course, the In-Pit Lane YouTube channel. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In-Pit Lane. Well, our guest tonight is a familiar name in the world of motorsport. His father was a regular on the supercar scene for a long, long time, and of course he is now racing in the TCR. However, our guest tonight began his career, or first came to our attention, in the growing Hyundai Excels series. Last year he moved over to Formula Ford, and this year was hoping to do even more rounds at the Victorian, state and national levels. But at the end of this year, well, he's going to have a huge treat when he gets behind the wheel of the Peugeot TCR car in the Bathurst TCR 500 alongside his father Jason. Here's Ben Bargwanna, and Ben, welcome to In-Pit Lane.
Hello, thank you for having me. It's really cool to be here.
I was saying to someone, you know you're getting old when you start talking to the sons of people who were guests many years ago. And I was thinking back, your father was a guest on, I think it was probably the very first season of In-Pit Lane, and you probably weren't even born back then. So that's how long we've been sort of going around the track for a while. But I mean, a lot of people, everybody of course knows about your father, but what some people don't know is the Bargwanna family is, has a very rich history of motorsport right throughout, particularly New South Wales, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my grandfather's raced in New South Wales for quite some time, and he still races in his Mustang that barely makes it around the track. But yeah, he still races, along with his brother up there. So they still race, and my cousins as well, Scott and Jude. They still race up there in Formula Ford at the moment, so yeah.
So was there ever any opportunity that you were going to do something other than become a racing driver? I mean, at any stage did you think that you'd take up, a tennis racket or a golf stick, or, become a competition ballroom dancer or something?
I mean, I did try out all the options when I was quite young. I think I played about everything that had a ball in it. I played soccer, basketball, cricket, all of them. But yeah, racing just stuck, and I love it more than anything.
What was your parents' response when you let them know that you were very keen? I mean, were they delighted, or were they sort of was it mixed emotions?
Well, I'm sure you can imagine Dad's reaction, but not sure Mum's was the same, just because of the money side of it. But yeah, no, Dad was definitely thrilled with it. But yeah.
Well, as I said, you first came to our attention in the Hyundai Excels series, and a lot of young drivers are now sort of using that as their stepping stone into the world of full-time motor racing. Tell us about your experiences there. Tell us about how that all came together, and did you buy a car? Did you put one together yourselves? How did that all happen?
Well, the Excel series is a great series, and I'll always stand by it. It kind of came about, we were deciding what to do. It was our last year of go-karts, and we decided that we would make the step up to cars. One option that we had was Formula Ford or Excels. And we chose Excels because it's a really cheap way to learn the basics. Dad and I are very fond of the idea of doing your apprenticeship and getting it right. So, the mistakes in an Excel, it doesn't have that great of effect. Whereas a mistake in a Formula Ford, you'd start tearing corners off a Formula Ford. It costs quite a lot. But an Excel, you go down to the wreckers and you get new panels, new everything for $100, and you could buy a whole car for $100 at the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, we bought.
I think when you say at the time, I think now a lot of these wreckers suddenly realise, what's happening with all these Excels that they were selling for a couple of $100. I don't think they're that anymore, are they?
No, definitely not. They're starting to dry up as well, so people are getting smarter and holding on to them. But yeah, they're starting to go up in price. But yeah, we bought a car, but we did a lot of work on it when we bought it, just to make it comfortable for us, really. And that's a huge thank to Rouse Motors, who some people might know, but yeah, they helped us quite a lot build that car up, and yeah, we just worked on it over 2 years.
So what's the secret to a successful Hyundai Excel? I mean, they really tightened down on those regulations to make sure that it didn't get out of control cost-wise. But what can you do to them? And I mean, what's the secret between sort of a midfield car and a top car? Because you were running very much at the top of the field.
Yeah, I mean, the restrictions have changed a fair bit since I started, but one thing you can do is you can modify the head and an exhaust, really, and that's about it. And you can also put good shocks in it, things like that. But like having Dad by my side, we just learnt how to set the car up and make it work, and that's what the front guys were doing. They just learnt how to make the car work.
Of course, yeah. From Excels, you moved into Formula Ford. I mean, apart from the fact that they've got four wheels and a four-cylinder engine, there's not a lot in common. How did you find that move to Formula Ford? And was it sort of was it more comfortable going back to it after your time in karts?
Yeah, like the change to Formula Ford was a big step, and it was always going to be. I don't think the go-karting, I don't think I can compare it too much because it's obviously a lot that's different. But, I carried a lot from the XL, even though that is a front-wheel drive tin top. But that's like all the basics. You bring them over to Formula Ford and you know how to start maximising the car. But a Formula Ford compared to an XL is just, it's crazy. And there's so much to learn and so much to get my head around. So yeah, that was a big step.
Well, of course, this year you were planning on doing more rounds of Formula Ford. With this whole crisis that's happened now, what are the plans now for you? We'll get onto the Bathurst thing a little bit later on, but in terms of Formula Ford, what are your plans once, if there is some talk that we might actually get a state round coming up in July at Sandown somewhere. So what are your plans so far?
Yeah, look, our plans at the moment, look, we're not sure. We're just waiting on everything to settle down. But at the start of the year, we planned on doing the full national series and most of the state series. But as the calendars got put together, as you mentioned, that Bathurst event happened to be on the same weekend as the last Formula Ford round. Just the way it goes. So we changed up our plan to focus on the state series. We're going to do all of the state series and most of the national rounds. And I think one of the national rounds and one of the state rounds actually clashed. So we were just going to focus on the state round, do national rounds, and we actually built up another XL, and we're just going to do as many laps as possible, just get knowledge, get experience.
Well, we'll find out more about that, and of course, as I mentioned, the race at Bathurst at the end of the year, which we're all hoping will come off. Stay with us for a moment. We're going to take a break now on In Pit Lane on Channel 31 and Channel 44 in Adelaide, and of course the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Our guest tonight is Ben Bargwanna, and both of us will be back right after this break. Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Our guest tonight is Ben Bargwanna. And Ben, we were talking about your time in Formula Ford and your plans for this year. As we said at the start of the interview, your plans for the end of this year is a big step up, and that's driving alongside your father in the inaugural TCR Bathurst 500 in the Peugeot. How did that all come together?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, isn't it? Well, it was kind of a long relationship thing. Obviously, Dad's had that relationship with Gary Rogers, and about midway through last year, Gary gave me the opportunity to come work on the TCR cars. So ever since the Phillip Island round, which I can't remember what round that was, but yeah, ever since then I was working on the TCR cars, just being the tyre guy really, just helping out with the cars, and I learned heaps about the cars, and obviously the excitement around TCR, it excited Dad and I, and really Dad. So we kind of pushed for an opportunity to step into it. And yeah, obviously it wasn't easy, but having that person backing was really good. When they came to us with the idea of it, and we presented the whole thing on the table, they were really interested and they just wanted to take off with it. So yeah, putting Dad in the car this year was really exciting for them, and the idea of having that enduro at the end of the year, where I can sit in the car with Dad and drive around the greatest track on earth, it really excited Bursons and Gary Rogers. So yeah, it's really cool.
You mentioned that TCR had sort of excited your father again, and I think a lot of us are like that at the moment. I mean, I don't want to sort of pile it onto the supercar scene and all the rest of it. But I think some of us are getting a little jaded with all of that. And then TCR came along. We got new cars, we got new drivers. Pretty much every manufacturer on the face of the planet has a dog in that fight. I mean, everybody's got a 2-litre front-wheel drive car almost. So what do you think is the future for this category?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, obviously it's an international category. And it's quite new to Australia, so people are still getting used to it. But if you watch the overseas stuff, like the World TCR, it's just exciting. It's super close racing, and when you look at it from a statistical point of view, what they are, it's not too expensive. I mean, obviously, it costs a lot, but for what they are, it's not really like stupid money. So it makes it exciting. And one thing we're talking about is how it relates to, I mean, kind of kids my age. Because, kids my age getting their P platers and stuff, they're driving small cars like that. It's not so much the Holden and the Ford anymore. Kids don't go for them as much. They go for the hot hatches. So it's really relatable to see those kind of cars out there, battling really close, and yeah, the racing's just awesome. It's got huge potential for the future.
And I think that's the thing you mentioned. I mean, that's obviously a problem that supercars have got now, and especially with Holden pulling out, is if they're looking at staying with that whole sort of rear-wheel drive V8 engined formula, which has been very successful and is very, very popular. The question is, I mean, what are they going to run? I mean, the obvious thing is that they bring over Camaros, but there's no guarantee the Camaro's even going to be manufactured after the end of next year. So as you say, everybody's got a car, the suitable car for TCR, and they're the cars that a lot of people can identify with. So with the Bathurst 500, is that sort of the lead in? Is that the ambition now to perhaps move into TCR and perhaps even look at some things like the World Touring Car Championship long term?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it opens up that opportunity to step outside of the country and have a crack. But that's never easy, and it always comes with a lot of money. But it does have that backing and that opportunity. There's a TCR category in almost every country, and they've got the international TCR, the world TCR. It's just got a huge backing around the world. So the right thing happens at the right time, and an opportunity could open up. But yeah, it could be a good step, but have to wait and see.
So what are the long-term plans? I mean, sort of, where do you want to be in, say, 5, 10 years' time?
It's probably a hard question. I mean, when I was a bit younger, I mean, supercars was was it. It was the ideal thing. But the way things are going, you never know what supercars' future will look like. And who knows, TCR might be the new best thing. 2 years ago, I never even heard of TCR. So, but that really excites me, and the idea of racing overseas in a TCR car that's really exciting. So that would be an awesome opportunity to do something like that.
And what about things like GT3 and GT4? As we've said, a lot of opportunities that were just not there years ago have now opened up for young drivers in things like the Creventic series and what was the Blancpain series, for SRO, and of course the whole Asian scene is opening up massively as well. Now, obviously, that's going to change a little. There's been some impact with what's happening now, but do you think that that's something you might look at as well? The opportunity of sort of popping in and being that sort of silver or gold driver for people in those sort of categories?
I mean, that'd be an awesome opportunity. I mean, we all sit here every year and watch the Bathurst 12 hour and watch those GT cars around the top of the mountain, and that's pretty cool. You see young blokes get into it, like even the Mark cars and stuff. Just to be alongside those GT cars. Guys like Aaron Cameron, Tyler Everingham. They get that opportunity to be amongst that. But yeah, the GT cars is super exciting. But the opportunities can be from anywhere, and there's so many of them. But yeah, I just gotta be right for it, and hopefully they come my way. But yeah.
Well, we wish you the very, very best of luck. As I said, it certainly makes me feel, I was saying to someone earlier today, I've spoken to 3 generations of Brabham and 3 generations of Stillwell, 3 generations of Richard's family, and now at least a 2nd generation of the Bargwannas. Good luck with what's happening. Now, you've been doing e-racing as well. When's your next step behind the virtual wheel?
Yeah, I've been doing the e-racing a bit. I think the next step will be Thursday night, the ARG Esports Cup. Dad put me in the seat, or I kicked him out, either one, whichever way you want to look at it. But yeah, that's the next race. I think it's F3 at Imola, which is pretty cool. That's the cool thing about this online stuff. You can race anywhere and anything. So yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Well, it's certainly been something that's kept us all sort of occupied during this whole crisis. But obviously, what we're really hoping to do is to get back to the track sooner rather than later. Good luck for both Formula Ford at the state and national level this year, but also hopefully we will see you at Bathurst at the end of the year in the first Bathurst TCR 500. But for now, Ben Bargwanna, thanks for joining us in Pit Lane.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
Well, thank you to Ben Bargwanna for joining us on the program this week. What a shame that race at Mount Panorama isn't going ahead. Obviously, he was looking forward to it. We were all looking forward to it. But it does make sense, of course, with all the current travel restrictions. That race has huge potential. That could possibly become sort of the touring car equivalent of the Bathurst 12 hour, with teams from all over the world wanting to race at that fantastic circuit. You can imagine drivers in Europe and Asia all wanting to come down and race at Mount Panorama, and it falls in exactly the right time of the year, following the end of the end of the European season, and just sort of in the middle of the Asian season as well. So it will be a very, very big event. But good luck to Ben Bargwanna, a nice guy, and obviously very passionate about the sport. So good luck to him in his future in the world of motorsport. Now, that's all we've got time for this week on In Pit Lane, so we'll wrap it up now and say thank you once again for watching. We really appreciate it at this very difficult time. If you're watching on Channel 31 or Channel 44, please remember to support community television, contact your local MP and ask them why community television is being shut down in Australia by the current government. Very, very disappointing, of course. You've probably heard a lot about that. The fact is it's very disappointing and totally unnecessary. So please support community television, contact your local MP and ask what they're doing to community television. But that's all the time we've got this week. We'll see you once again next week. So until then, from all of us here at In Pit Lane, thanks for watching and bye for now.